Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Two Tamers Talk. By popular request, Jeff is in the house.
Guys, you're feeding my ego. There's no way you guys miss me as much as you're saying. I really appreciate it, though. It's good to be back, man. I miss this. Miss everyone. I miss being involved. So I'm going to try to start coming back to be more involved, but it's a slow and steady process for sure. And I'll, talk. I guess we can just get into it, kind of what happened,
sure.
why I got derailed. So, all right, for me, I right at the time we started switching studios, and you guys have probably talked enough about all that and all that stuff. And I was trying on my end to figure out if I was going to do the studio at my place or do it here at Jacob's, or how we were going to do this and just kind of figure this all out. And then I got myself into a car accident. So I kind of want to do a PSA, guys. Listen, I hate. It doesn't matter how good you are at driving. It doesn't matter how many times you've answered an email, sent a text message, changed GPS. Just try not to be on your phone while you drive. I almost killed myself. Maybe I can't say that. Maybe I almost unalived myself. Maybe that's the word I got to say. Definitely the damage could have been a lot worse. I have the scar on my arm here. If you can't
Very
see.
badass.
It's pretty
Very
good.
cool.
So when it happened, now, just quick backstory on me, right? Like, I live in my car because for work, I drive a lot. I drive to customer sites, I fix things. And my previous job, I drove across multiple states compared to now where it's a little bit more local.
Yeah.
So I was driving all the time, and it's not like I'm a texter and driver, right? I'm not sitting there and all the time driving, right? But you know how it is. Like a work text comes in, quickly respond, I'm on my way, blah, 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 whatever. And so for me, I was driving on the back roads to a buddy's place. Wasn't even for work, actually. And it was, there's no shoulder where I was driving. It's a little bit of a hill. And literally my tire clipped like this much of a hill. And then I got stuck in this no way out of this motion where the car just kind of launched out of this ditch and right into a tree. And the huge branch came in through the windshield, giant hole in my windshield right where my head was. And I guess I put my arm up to block. It all happened so fast.
Yeah.
So you could see the bone sticking through, and everybody kind of thought, for those in the medical field, that it was a compound fracture, or anyone who has first aid training, because you could see the bone sticking out.
Or for the unlucky viewers.
Or for the unlucky viewers that have had this happen.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I didn't break any bones. I was out for a while. I'm still kind of just now getting the strength back in my arm. This happened at the end of June for me. And so ever since then, I've been incredibly derailed. I mean, you guys knew I already had too much on my plate before this. Doing school, working full time.
And work and Digimon.
And Digimon and all this stuff full time. And then this happened, and all of it, I'm a routine type person. And once I'm out, it's hard for me to get back into that, oh crap, I got to do this week. I got to do this week, kind of get back into that flow. So I'm finally starting to get back into that. It's taken a while, I fell behind on a couple things that really had to take priority and precedence. So I've been working my way back, and it's been good. It's been good to be back. I miss Digimon. These reveals have been crazy. Everything that's been going on has been awesome.
Yes.
And another thing that came with this car accident, right, was kind of stepping back to realize how much money I was spending on the game. And, I knew how much I was spending, don't get me wrong, but it was just one of those things that taking a couple weeks off and then having to pay some medical bills, some vehicle damage, etc., almost offset how much I was spending because I wasn't playing and I wasn't spending, where it's like I almost didn't notice a difference because it's like, oh, well, my medical bill's covered because I haven't bought Digimon cards in a while. So public service announcements for everybody, guys. Please try not to be on your phone to drive. It only takes that one time. It wasn't even like I was typing a paragraph.
No.
I literally looked down at my
fast.
phone for a second, and I clipped a non-shoulder, got stuck in a ditch. I mean, like I said, I've driven plenty of times and responded to texts, emails, and it's not the right thing to do. If whatever it is, it can wait. It can wait. Or you can pull over if it can't wait, right? Or I know that some people can't necessarily have all the hands-free stuff due to finances, whatever, or if you don't drive, whatever. But look into that. Maybe it's, I don't know. So public service announcement 1. And announcement 2, be careful and try to live on a budget and try to, not overspend and stuff like that. You know,
Don't. Not every deck has to be max rarity.
Not every deck has to be max rarity, and don't worry about having 8 Death X's just so you don't have to move Death X's between decks if you're only going to play one deck at a time anyways. So, you know, maybe just try to be a little bit careful on that. And that's so, like I said, coming back and kind of changes how I'm doing some things. And yeah, it's been
well, I did want to ask, what is first on your list now that you're back?
So for me, when I played, I don't know, like 2-3 times since this accident, and for me it was the Zhangpeng blue aquatic bird stuff.
Yes.
And
Sea Friends.
The Sea Friends. And this deck was so much fun. I mean, any deck that makes Aegis Dramon like a legit contender, like, that's pretty impressive. But for me, the big thing is just seeing all the reveals. Like, I'm getting excited for Cross Art again, seeing all the reveals. I'm getting excited for Tyrannos, seeing that, the promo Mommy Tyramon.
Yep.
So again, what's first on my list? I don't know if I've just because I've been so fixated on this Zhangpeng deck that I want to keep playing this more and more. But it's tough, man, because green has been really drawing me just with all that you can do. You know, that whole... I was playing on the DigiSim kind of while I was recovering from my surgery here and there. And you know, I would play my old Tyrannomon decks. And, like, the value that I can get, like, obviously it's not a tier 0. It's not tier 1. I'm not going to lie. But I'm able to get some good value, able to do some fun moves. And it's kind of my play style. So kind of either leaning towards green or blue. But I'm not going to mix them and play Imperial Dramon. That's not me.
It's not you.
But
of course.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this EX set coming out. It's kind of nice it's been delayed for me. Just for a little bit of...
give you a little breath of fresh air.
A little bit of fresh air, kind of ease my way back into things before it just comes out, because I didn't even get a chance to build the last BT set, you know, and I was really into that Omnimon stuff.
Oh, the Ace, Omni
Yeah,
Ace.
well, not just the Ace Omni, but, like, I saw this deck, and guys, again, if you're not following this page, just go to the Digimon English version Facebook page, the official page. Sometimes they post sample decks. They posted a sample deck of, like, this Omnimon Ace deck using the Gabumon and the Agumons together in a deck, and I really liked that deck.
Yes.
I was like, this actually kind of works, as you can actually do a lot with it. Obviously, there's things you can peek and optimize and stuff like that. But I mean, we had a close friend of the channel, and he was playing with us from basically the beginning. He was a big Agumon player back, you know, when Agumon was thing, and he played that for sets, and while it was not good. And he always said, I will play a deck where I can play Agumon and Gabumon together. And he's not playing, so if you're listening, man, get back in, start playing. This is your deck for you. Please do that.
Yeah, that deck is cool.
Yeah.
It's one of those decks that will crush certain stuff if it can't out level 6s without sources. Like, so you can't de-digivolve it. You know, level 6 bounce targets are pretty hard to come by.
Yeah,
it's a really strong deck.
Yeah, there's a lot of values. I mean, another thing that's been really intriguing me is, for those of you that do know me, I've talked about this a lot. I was a Mega Zoo player at the beginning, right? When you would play 10 memory to drop a vanilla level 6 and digivolve into a level 7. Yeah. Well, now I have all these 9-cost level 7s with 15, 16K DP that have on-play effects or whatever. And that all of a sudden so I'm kind of almost thinking about trying a Mega Zoo deck where I'm just hard dropping Ragna for 9. You know what I'm saying?
Not even that bad.
Not even that bad. Like, yeah, and all of a sudden I have like a 15K beater on board. Like, you got to get rid of him in 6 turns, and not including every other level 7 I'm going to hard drop for 9.
Yeah.
You know, and then you mix it in with security control options and stuff like that. Go back to the original Mega Zoo days. I don't know. I'm still tinkering, but it's nice to have those creative juices flowing again and seeing these ace type cards that seem to get a lot of value. And at first I was a little hesitant with, especially like, so the first couple days back for me, I'm playing against these DNA decks where it's like, I'm so fixated on, are they going to DNA blast Evo on me? Right? Because you can just do it from hand, right? If you have the other piece.
With the Ragnar and the Mastay.
Yeah, and the Mastay especially was the one that was messing me up. Shout out to Nito, because I was playing him one of my first weeks back, and I was playing the Zhangpeng deck, and I was just like, man, you have it. I know you have it. I know you have it. I don't want to do anything, you know? So it's really interesting, because I feel like it's almost more intimidating than a regular ace. Right. And that's not something I originally thought of when I first saw the reveals, because I was like, oh, you have to have that card in hand and you have to have the ace. But I think the payoff is just so good.
Yeah. One deck I do want to put you on to, EX7 is for, at the time of recording, it's a week away. At the time of you all listening, Friday at 8 a.m., should be in your stores. Most stores, I think Friday is street day for it. The green structure deck and accompanying set in EX7
Very excited.
is the Green Birds.
Very,
and
very
I think
excited for
that
all
is
that
going to be
stuff.
right up your alley. For
Yes,
those of you
yes.
who did not pick up promo Ptero and promo Galemons,
Yep.
I'm very sorry.
Yep.
Those are very good cards in the deck. But the interesting thing about that deck that I've seen is the ability to flex in other green cards that are generically strong.
Yeah.
Like I think I've seen people playing SR Palamon as a rookie.
I mean, it
I've
makes
seen
sense.
people playing SR Tentomon as a rookie.
Yeah.
And then going up those lines like the Togemon that can play a Tamer for free or reduced by 3.
Yeah.
The Kabuterimon that if it's suspended can't be affected by Digimon. Stuff like that. And then going into the Zafagamon and the more tribal stuff.
Well, I mean,
that
a couple months ago when I was on my green kick playing Leopardmon, Marukimon, the Fortitude stuff, and
Yeah.
I've been kind of planning. I guess what I should have said when you asked me what deck I'm most excited for, this 100% this deck,
dude.
100% this
Hell
deck.
yeah.
I've been waiting for this dude for so long. I love the Vortex stuff, but to me, it seems green seems to be the only color where you can use generic packages compared to other colors where you have specific lines to do things. I think blue still has that advantage where you can something I want to ask you about, and we'll get into this a little bit later. I want to ask you what you think of Mirage Gaogamon with all these jamming inheritables, but we'll talk about that in a sec.
I would love to.
But like the Safagamon, just using all of these good green packages from your favorite green deck, and it's still not going to get in the way of, because Vortex is such a good keyword.
Yes.
You can get so much value out of that where you're not sacrificing where you're like, okay, I have to play this line to make this thing work.
Yeah.
No, you can do however you like to do so.
Yeah, the only thing that I've seen that is the detriment is there is a Shoto that says on play a Terramon, kind of like Zenjiro and Akari from the Crossheart strategy.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I mean, the SR Palmon inheritable doesn't say if you're a vegetation reduce Evo, just says reduce Evo. Same way the Tentomon deleted Digimon in battle, gain a memory. And it's pretty strong in that deck too because it is blocker as well. So you block, kill something, gain a memory on the opponent's turn. Pretty good disruption.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. There's a lot of good value out of that stuff.
But
Very excited
in
for that.
terms of Mirage and fish and birds, it is kind of the way that Japan is taking Mirage Gaogamon. Is the fish and bird bottom end into Mirage Gaogamon top end.
Yep.
And it's a super interesting way to take the deck because the deck relies a little bit less on the Thomas H. Norstein at that capacity. And then you can go into the Mirage. You can use the inheritables, which are more generic, access to jamming, access to unsuspend, things like that. So
it's a lot of good value. And then
I'm happy that you brought that up.
Yeah, and I remember seeing a reveal. I think it was like last week. There was another jamming inheritable for blue, and I'm just like, geez, another one. Like, now you can almost play any of these types of decks to have the jamming, and it's fun. Don't get me wrong. It's kind of nice when blue gets another kind of form of an identity, like blue being a jamming type color. Like red having that security attack +1, whereas blue has that multi-swing jamming. It's really interesting to have that.
Yeah, and then of course the last thing that we'll mention in EX7 is Hexablau with Ice Clad.
Yes, yes.
It'll be pretty interesting to see.
Oh my goodness!
There was the first thing that people did is Snow Agumon with an egg swinging over Death X suspended because it has the one source, which I always thought was pretty funny.
I think that's awesome. I'm glad that they introduced a keyword like that. I think that was something people wanted when the original Hexablau came out.
A way to control the board.
Yeah, a way to because a lot of people like the whole, because the second starter deck, the very first blue cards really had this source removal built in, and then it almost felt like, okay, so you can have this source removal, but what's the payoff?
Right.
Like, what is the benefit to me being able to do this? And now this is a chance for that to actually happen. Well, okay, cool. Now I have Iceclad, this cool keyword, do a lot of neat things with it. So I'm very excited. Yeah. I'm also excited to see in pre-release. Well, let me take that back, because the EX set, no pre-release, but in a future BT set with the pre-release with Iceclad, how useful that would be.
It seems good.
Yeah.
Well, so we're going to move on to some reveals that are near and dear to our hearts.
Yes, we are. We were just talking about this.
Crossheart is something that we have bonded over, and let's just jump right into it. because I know you've been a little bit behind on the reveals. But
I've been seeing a lot of. I've been keeping my eye out.
This
Don't worry.
is something I've watched like a hawk.
Yeah.
And so the first thing that we'll talk about, real quick, you've all seen these reveals, but we haven't talked about them on the pod, and so I wanted to bring them up specifically. The first thing that we must note is that we have a new Cross 4 and a new Cross 5.
Yep.
The interesting thing about these cards is that they're both 0 on plays with full Digicross.
Yeah. Whereas before, well, the original Cross 5 was 0.
Was 0, but the Cross 4 was a 1 cost, and it ended up getting restricted.
Which is interesting. They kind of did that to balance it, but then they still ended up restricting it.
Yeah. And so the way that these cards have gone is they both kind of have the same ability. When they would leave the battle area, you put 3 sources in it under your Tamers. So it's a little bit different than material save.
Yeah.
Where material save only counted on that deletion. So this, if it gets, bounced, if it gets bottom decked, whatever the case, you still retain those materials.
Do you think they're leaning towards having material save become this in general? Like
I think so.
Like they're going to do it with the keyword, or would we see an errata on the keyword of material save to make it so if you material save, you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't predict an errata to the old Digicross stuff.
Sure.
Because it would be a lot of cards.
It'd be a lot of cards, absolutely. But if they just did the keyword, like they just said material save, a change,
if it leave the battle
not
area.
just deletion, right?
Yeah,
I'm not saying I want that to happen, but
I would
seeing
want that.
these,
that'd be awesome. When you swing in. You with your Cross 4 or with your Cross 5 and it lives and then they bounce it and you lose all your materials. Always felt so bad.
Yeah.
So those are kind of the basics, the new stuff.
All of this stuff made me think of, because one of my favorite decks on the sim to play is Superior Mode deck, where I'm literally just playing as many different cross dudes as I can, and I'm playing the White Tamer. It doesn't win a whole lot, but it's fun. Yeah, and I want to tuck as many things as I can.
Yes.
And I want a Superior Mode with as many sources for whatever. And now, as soon as I've seen all these things, I'm like, somebody else likes this deck too.
Yes.
Because they want you to play this White Tamer. They want you to put dudes underneath. They want you to play a big Superior Mode.
Yes.
With all, especially the fact they gave us all of these level 4s that are like the manga exclusives where they weren't in the anime, right? And their own, well, I guess it would be, I know some of them are already level 4s, but it's like a new evolution or whatever. It's very interesting to me that they're adding all of this. It's cool. It's cool.
Well, and that's what we're going to get to now is the new boss monster of the Crossheart deck, which is EX6. So it's Alliance Reboot and Material Save 4. So on play for each color and sources, all of your opponent's Digimon get -1K, then play Shooting Star from under one of your Tamers. And then crazy. When attacking, not once per turn, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with as much or less DP.
Wow.
So already on that card is super strong.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the materials, because it's Omni Shout and Z Gray, which we've had Omni Shouts and Z Grays before.
Yes.
But
it was always hard to fit in Z Gray,
It's always hard to fit
It's always hard to fit in Z Gray.
But now we also have Alter Ballistamon,
yeah.
Jaeger Darulumon, and Raptor Sparrow. So talk a little bit about the manga, because I know we've got Crossheart fans at locals. So what's going on here?
So I am a big manga reader. I love reading mangas and stuff, but I honestly have not been able to find a lot of Digimon material to read. Maybe I'm just not using the right sources or whatever, so I haven't read them. But this will be one of those things when I'm like up late at night on the Digimon wiki, right? And I'm like checking out all these different links, where you just open up 30 tabs in a night and it's all of a sudden it's 2
down the rabbit hole.
It's 2 in the morning and you're like, wow, I've read so many different things about the Tyrannomon line tonight that I didn't need to read.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's like when you have this whole manga series, which it's nice when they have additional media. Like I know Digimon Liberator's doing a great job giving us like these new Digimon, but I know what you're asking me. I'm going to I'll circle back to it.
Okay.
But to me, the weakness with Bandai and the Digimon franchise as a whole was almost like lack of consistency, right? So if you think about why Pokemon is such a huge force in the game and one of the biggest franchises, biggest IPs in the world, right? They've had like almost like a unified front from the beginning, like the games, the cards, the show, kind of all together at the same time. They'd rotate at the right times. They have this plan, right? Every X number of years, a new game, and every X number of years, the card rotation set.
True.
And if, a new game comes out, then all of a sudden the cards are coming out with the Pokemon from the new region. Digimon's never, in the beginning, kind of been that unified, right? Where it almost seems like things were Japanese exclusive, or they didn't realize what to do in the US, or somebody stopped them from fully carrying over what they needed to carry over, right? Where, especially with Digimon Liberator, right? We get a new boss monster in Liberator. It's a new card reveal. Like the next week, the week after.
Yeah.
It's a new starter deck, right? People talking about Shellmon finally getting an evolution line and that coming from Digimon Liberator, or, the main protagonist and the gal with all the puppets and stuff from Liberator, Heavy Metal Dramon, which I'm very excited for Heavy Metal Dramon, by the way. I love heavy metal in general. But anyways, so like they're kind of doing it now, where it's like, we're going to give us this unified front. Like, hey, now what I need is a new game from them with a lot of this stuff. I think that they could totally, even if they just did a Liberator game, you know what I'm saying? That'd be sweet, right?
Or Seekers too.
A Seekers
game
game.
would be sweet.
A Seekers game would probably be more realistic, since they probably had a little bit more time to develop that or whatever. But like the same thing with the Seekers, right? They had the Seekers. All of a sudden, the card sets had all these pieces to it. And now, obviously, not a whole set needs to have just Seekers, just Liberator. They're able to mix in a lot of these, this manga cross stuff. So, kind of coming back to this, right? So, this manga may have been out of reach for a lot of people. A lot of people don't know where to find it, how to read it. Maybe it's not even been translated properly, and people are using sources that are either infecting their computer or translated poorly, or have too many ads on the website or whatever, right? Trying to read this manga and getting lost, or, I don't know if you guys have ever had this happen before. This is a side tangent, I'm sorry. But I remember reading a manga once and somebody screwed up the orders of the chapters. And so all of a sudden I'm, reading through an arc halfway through. All of a sudden the order's all jacked up and I'm like, oh crap, what's going on? I had to just find a completely new website to use. But no, so it's Digimon. There's so many Digimon. There's so many different forms, and it would just be a shame for this card game not to take advantage and give us all of these unique things. Yeah. Right? Like I remember, especially for those that love playing tribal, for those that like playing, like Blue Flare when it first came out, always having a hybrid for game. Like Lanamon, she was Blue Flare in the manga. Oh. Are we going to get a new Lanamon that could be a Blue Flare hybrid Digivolution? I don't know, but that would be sick, right?
That would be sick.
So it's just nice when we're finally kind of getting this, because there's people like this stuff. People like
love
crossheart.
People love it.
It's and alternative formats. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about alternative formats here in a sec.
Yeah.
But if you do want to play an alternative format, like a singleton format with crossheart, right? Now you have 2 cross-4s. Now you have all of these different Ballistamons, Darulamons to actually use to make things happen. I don't know.
Well, get it. Thank you so much for that.
Yo, you're welcome.
The diatribe. I love it. But I did want to talk about the EX6 materials, because it's really shaping up to be, I think, what Cross 7 should have been.
Yeah.
Which is something that just gets so many effects. So, Z Gray. It's more for the Blue Flare deck. It's main text. Although it can digivolve on some of the level 5s in the deck, because some of them are black.
Sure.
But inheritable, all turns 2K. So it's a reboot, we know. So it is going to have that ability to be a little defensive, and then also have the DP on your turn.
Sure.
The Omni Shout is Rush. So the old Omni Shout was Sec +1, and the Cross 7 had Rush on it. Yeah. But now we're getting Rush in the inheritable there. Shooting Star. This one is all turns. When you play it, or when a Crossheart is played, you give something Sec -1 and neg 3K. Yeah. And then inheritable, shrink 2K again.
Yeah, having that security minus is a new ability almost to the cross stuff, because that was never in there. They've had the DP minus, they've had the piercing, the blocker, the reboot, but now all of a sudden Sec minus. Okay, cool. What other abilities can we get?
So the one thing that you don't kill, you can at least stop from attacking you.
Sure.
Jaeger Darulu is our piercing. Alter Ballista is our blocker. And then a keyword I don't know if you've really played around with since your hiatus, but Raptor Sparrow is our collision.
I've played against it once and it messed me.
Yes, so
and I don't know what to do with it.
A deck I've been playing a lot is the Dexter Goromon deck, which is I think the best utilization of collision we have in English right now. But I think this Crossheart deck is going to be a contender for the new best, because one thing that's really strong about Dex is its collision alliance.
Yeah,
so you can make a really big swing at collision, and so the trade-off with purple versus black-based decks is AG is Alliance and Kosuke is Piercing.
Sure.
So when you're in the Dorumon variant, you get the Piercing. When you're in the AG variant, you get the Alliance.
Yeah.
When you're in Crossheart EX6, you're Alliance Piercing Reboot Blocker. And I'm just like, holy moly. It's just like and then on top of all that, the new option says unsuspend your Shooting Star and your EX6.
Sure.
Then you can attack. So you can Alliance, Pierce Collision Block, Pierce Collision Alliance, restand Pierce Collision Alliance, and your DP minusing and your sec -1ing, and then your reboot blocking.
It's crazy what all that they gave to us, for sure.
This card is sweet, and if you haven't seen the alt art, it's a beauty.
Oh yeah, they look great. I love seeing them. I like I said, I still follow the reveals. I still see it all, and
so good days ahead for the Crossheart fans.
I think so.
And I'm super excited. We do have a couple of questions in the Two Tamers Talk Q&A, and just a quick shout out. Please get in the Discord if you're watching this.
Yeah.
We're getting back. We're getting more integrated with you folks.
Yeah.
So just get in there, ask us a question. What deck do you want to see, or just say hi?
I want to do something like that too, because right before my little hiatus, I was doing on Fridays where I would jump on the sim with people and stream with people. And
yes.
I remember I had 5 to 6 people at a time and had a blast playing against you guys. A lot of fun. You guys gave me some cool deck ideas, and unfortunately, I've not been able to do that since. I don't know when I'm going to be able to get back to that, but I promise you guys I want to.
Hell yeah.
And I miss that, and I love being able to play with you guys and having these interactions just like off this podcast where it's like live, like, hey man, let's jump with me in this stream. Let's talk and do some more of that
Let's
stuff.
Get some game.
So yeah.
So question I think we'll be able to answer pretty simply is from Big Z11. How do you guys feel about how promos are being distributed in store tournament packs? I like them, but it feels like some are hard to come by, even when there are 2 promos per pack. And I'll kind of lead off with this because Bandai gets a lot of criticism for their pricing.
Yeah.
I think some of it is deserved. Some of it is a little overblown.
Sure.
We all know One Piece is kind of their main focus.
Yeah.
In terms of pricing, their prize cards are valuable and very, very nice. That being said, Bandai makes improvements every tournament split.
Yeah, honestly, Bandai's been making improvements on the game since the beginning. They really have. They've been very receptive.
So the biggest complaint revolved around one card in particular, and that was Promo Raremon.
Yep.
Promo Raremons, they were $50. They were $60 at one point. They're expensive. They're generically good in a lot of black and purple decks.
Yep.
And they're hard to get.
Yeah. Made Raidenmon playable. I mean...
what more could you
ask for?
They printed it as participation in their regional tournaments.
Yeah.
And that's great because it's the same thing with the promo Zubamon, Ragnarlordmon, a fan favorite. People love to play that deck. You need at least 3 copies of the promo to play the deck at a competitive level.
Sure.
They made it participation in their packs. Their tournament packs is how they've been catching us up on some of the other promos.
Yep.
Like the promo Minomon, the Wormmon, the Myotis X, Gotsu X, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I know in the next set, that's how we're getting the fake Jerry, the Shoutmon Darulu Cannon, and things like that. There have been plugins and that stuff. And I think it's good because a lot of those promos, it's not like everyone's like, when are we getting recharge plugin Q?
Yeah.
Like, I need this card. But there are people that are like, I really need 4 copies of recharge plugin Q.
Sure.
And so giving those promos as packs, participation.
Yeah.
If you have access to a local, then you can get them. They're super cheap because they're participation. There's a winner stamp for those who want to get a little bit extra bling. But catching up on the promos, the hard to find, the rare, and the expensive, I think that's great by Bandai.
Yeah, I think the issue becomes, and this is something that we can't answer for, is depending on how your local store is, right?
Yes.
You could have some stores that are not giving out the cards they need, that are supposed to give out, whether that's, participation, they're hoarding onto packs to try to sell. We can't speak for every stop. We can speak for how great ours has been.
We are blessed. Wayward City Games.
Yeah, we've had, the right distribution. They want us to have these promos. They're giving us out, but obviously you have to show up and participate. It's a participation prize, right? So I think that's okay, but so for those of you that are maybe having issues with your locals, I don't know if that's something that you can talk to them on a personal level, like, hey, like I know you guys are supposed to be giving this out. At? Where are these packs? Yeah. Be respectful, obviously, right? But maybe there's something you can do if they're not doing what they're supposed to do. 100%. I don't know. But I agree with you, man. The promos, it does sometimes suck when they make a very expensive promo, like a gatekeeper to a deck, where it's hard for people to get in to be able to play something, especially, if something that they love.
That's what I'm wondering about the Vortex promos, the Pteromon and the Galemon, because that is like their new tie for this Liberator deck.
Sure.
And there's no way they're gonna gatekeep their new protagonist.
Yeah, I mean, one question that I always have, and this is not necessarily an answer, more of an open-ended question, I guess, for Bandai, since they're huge subscribers, haven't used that one in a while. So I don't know if you guys have seen, but those of you that have been on Premium Bandai recently, they have a new section of their website where it's the Premium Bandai Card Shop, whatever it's called, where they're selling specific card related stuff. Where, like, I know this is probably bigger in One Piece, where they're doing the One Piece stuff, right? But they have their own card shop. So to me, if I was Bandai, what is stopping Bandai from putting promos on their own website? And selling them like that too, but I don't know. There's probably a reason for it, because I know not really other games don't do that. Like Magic has Secret Lair, that's not a participation prize. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know any games that put participation prizes on a website to sell. Yeah. Like obviously there's third-party aftermarket stuff like TCG Player, eBay, whatever.
But that's where the prices get quite high.
That's where it's kind of like how the market shapes out to be, supply and demand, right? So it's interesting.
Well, we got one more question. Local legend Oscar, very handsome, the 8th Demon Lord himself.
Yes, sir.
Asks, is there something from another card game like you wish they'd add to Digi? Like new mechanics or alternate format, like how Magic has Commander or GOAT format in Yu-Gi-Oh! What do you think, Jeff?
Okay, so this is a very tough question, and I'm gonna focus on the alternative formats for a sec. I don't think that the issue, right, is for me, I always thought Magic was kind of dying because of Commander. I always thought, like, with Commander, with the introduction of Commander, people are staying away from, the Modern, which is what I played when I play Magic, or Standard, and I dabbled in that for a little bit too, right? And having these alternative formats, I'm worried about, killing things like that off. I love alternative formats, right? Don't get me wrong. Playing Commander's fun, right? Playing Chosen One's Digimon is fun. I've had a blast playing that. Doing like 3v3, multiplayer, any sort of alternative format's always a blast. But the issue becomes, is that something you do when you're at your friend's house and you're with a group of buddies and you're hanging out? Or is that something you do at a shop where you're trying to keep the game going, get those participation notes for the store, to get product support from Bandai, to, you know what I'm saying?
I do know.
Right. Where it's one of those, like, if it was up to me and if I didn't have to work and didn't have all my other responsibilities, we'd be playing Digimon in my house every night. We'd be experimenting with different formats. Yeah. And we'd be like, all right, guys, this is red only night. Come hang out. We're playing red whatever. Or this is 3v3 night. Let's form a team. Let's see what we can do, right? Yeah. But the issue just becomes time. People have lives. People even play other card games, right? So it's like, if you're already playing 2 card games, are you going to be playing 2 formats for each card game?
Right, exactly.
Because then that almost becomes 4 card games, right? So alternative formats are a great thing. I do worry about longevity of Magic with Commander. It seems like it's going okay,
Yeah.
Right. Don't get me wrong, but I'm curious if it's because Magic has to shift away from selling standard and modern products and focus on Commander stuff, right? And I don't know if Digimon could survive a Commander-esque shift.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, one thing that, and you touched on it briefly, is one thing I really want Bandai to try and really push is that 3v3 event.
Yeah.
In Pasadena, I entered. I went to that tournament alone. No one else could make it locally. And I was just walking around. Hey, I'm 1 and 2. I'm dropping out of the tournament. Does anyone want to play 3v3? I found 2 guys and we played, and we didn't know each other before the tournament, and we had a ton of fun. It was really fun.
That's how it needs to be, because I remember when we went to that regionals down in Pasadena, right, we couldn't do the 3v3 because of the timing.
Yes.
Right, so if they're going to do an alternative format, it needs to be where the timing lines up, where you can drop from the main event and be able to get into a 3v3 or whatever.
The biggest complaint from a lot of people at Nats was not enough tables for the 3v3.
Sure.
Because a lot of people really wanted to play in it.
Yeah.
And so I'm just saying, Bandai, make it so that you have these store tournaments coming up.
Yep.
You have store regionals. Allow them to offer a 3v3. You have tournaments where you're like, okay, this is green only. This is purple only. Now it's the 3v3 tournament. And I know a lot of locals, they'd maybe just do they just have 3 teams of 3 and they do a round robin. But guys, seriously, give it a try. Even if your tournament can't make it work, just get 5 friends and play in the 3v3 just by yourselves. It is so fun. It is really, really a good time.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, man. I mean, Oscar, to answer your question as far as actual mechanics of the game outside of Digimon, I'm sitting here and I'm trying to think, Digimon has so many mechanics. You can make a blocker, you can restand, you can, delete things, you can...
And they're adding keywords.
I mean, I'm trying to think, right, because it would be dangerous if they focused on alternative win conditions. I know last week we were talking about that on the channel. If they made a deck that mills more than it does, mills your opponent out, that could be dangerous, right? You don't necessarily want to take away from people being able to play the game at all.
Yes.
But I'm thinking, okay, well, what about, for example, Star Wars has Sentinel, right, where it's you have to attack that. If it's suspended, right? And I think there's some equivalent in Digimon, but it's not necessarily a keyword.
Yeah, we have force people to attack start a main kind of abilities.
We have that, but it's not hey, you have to attack this, So maybe that would be my answer, but honestly, Bandai's given us so many mechanics in the game. A lot of people when they play card games, they want to for example, they want to evolve things. They want to get stronger. Well, that's what Digimon does already.
Yep.
That's the funnest part of the game. So you already kind of have that. I don't know. Good question. We want to hear what you guys think in the comments below.
Yeah, let us know if you've got ideas for alternative formats. Let us know in the comments or hop in the Discord and let us know what you guys think.
Yeah, definitely want to hear if there's another card game that you guys play that have this mechanic that you love, that you think Digimon could implement or should implement or whatever. We definitely want to hear that.
Excellent. Well, Jeff, it's about that time.
Sure.
It's been a while.
Do
you have a card of the week picked up?
I do.
Right, let us hear it.
Zhang Pengmon, level 6. I love this card. I love this card, man. The alt art's great. I think my only gripe about this whole line is that Koki did most of the artwork. And that's, let Koki do the guys that I haven't had represented before. If you're going to give me a new Digimon, don't let Koki do this. But that's for you, buddy. But no, it's a great deck. It's a lot of fun. You guys know me. You guys knew I was a big into Aegistormon. I was big into the blue fish.
Yep.
And a lot of this, and I've been playing this Bukamon egg, the gain of memory when you play something from sources for a long time. Been one of my favorite eggs. So any deck, like I said earlier, that can make all of a sudden Aegistormon better, right? Or a card in general that can make an old card that was almost unusable or unwinnable all of a sudden can do something like this. I'm all for. I love this. I love the representation in the game. I think they did a great job when having this brand. This is a perfect example, right? It's like a new Digimon they introduced to us, added it to the encyclopedia, right? And then they gave us a card almost immediately following, for Japan, right? And they said they revealed a new Digimon, they gave us a new card, and it's supported in an old format and even made that old format better. That is a perfect representation of what Bandai needs to do to grow the Digimon franchise as a whole.
Agreed. Well, I also have a card of the week.
Yeah, what's yours, man?
Like I said, collision is my new favorite keyword in Digimon.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
Is you gonna like it more than Vortex?
I haven't touched
Right,
the Vortex
right.
stuff yet, but
That's
I'm
tough.
excited to. But collision. So obviously, I started playing it with Shakomon in BT16. I continued playing with it in Dexdorgormon in BT17. But the big like advertised collision deck in BT17 was Ground Locomon. And
Trains,
now
I love
the
that
Ground
stuff. Yeah,
Locomon Parasitemon deck I never really put together.
Yeah.
But what I did do is put 4 copies of BT17 Trailmon in Machine Dramon.
4, wow.
So the level 4 spot in Machine has been super contested.
Yes.
Hover SB, Tankmon, Raremon. I mean, just a million
I
things.
loved it with Numamon, with the, you know?
Yeah, the Turbo Numamon.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different options in the level 4. But I love Collision so much that I went straight for 4 copies of that Collision. Giving Chaos Dramon or Machine Dramon Collision has been awesome in that deck.
Yep.
And I love it so much. And we're getting more level 5 cyborgs that say Collision, and we'll go to those in the future. But right now, I'm absolutely loving the Trailmon in Machine.
Anytime Bandai can take advantage of all of us with the tism that love trains, we need to take advantage of this. Okay, it is.
Anytime you evolve into Trailmon, you just go choo choo.
I'm about to show up to locals wearing like a conductor hat,
Yeah,
like a
there
ticket
you go.
puncher or something like that. Like
It's perfect.
Oh my god, no, that's a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier, where it's like Bandai has such a wide variety of things to touch on, whether it's a cross heart manga, whether it's a new Liberator series, right? Well, what about the trains that the Digidesa would ride on in the series to get to these,
Great question.
to get to wherever they needed to go next in their adventure? Finally, we have representation with these trains. I love it. I think it's great.
Well, that's it for us, guys. If you've made it this far, thanks so much for watching, and thanks for sticking with us through this time.
Yeah.
And thank you, Jeff, for coming back and doing this with us. We love to have you.
Yeah, it's great to be back. I'll be on more for sure. And I even hear a rumor. I think we're getting Jesse back on here in a sec too. So
Stay tuned.
we're coming
y'all.
back, guys. We're not dead yet.
That's right. And so if you've made it this far, give us a like, a comment, and a subscribe, and we'll see y'all in the next one.